This is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of the CreditRepairShop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the issues that the major credit reporting agencies are having with having accurate information reported to all of our credit reports. Now, something that I found that was incredible was that the credit reporting agencies state that it is up to us to make sure that our information is accurate, even though they're the ones that are allowing companies to furnish information on there, to place information on there, good or bad. But it really comes down to where they are stating that it's up to us to, number one, correct that information and to make sure that information is accurate. So this was a hearing with the Senate Banking Committee on consumer credit reporting. I'm going to play some of this, and you're invited to look this up online also. But I think that you'll find it very interesting, especially when they start to talk about debt collectors.
So we'll come to order. Thank you, the witnesses today, for joining us. Three witnesses today, plain and simple, determine the financial futures of every American. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion are this country's biggest biggest credit reporting agencies. You have, as you know, and as we've talked, tremendous power over people's lives. The information you collect and put in people's credit reports determines whether people can get a mortgage or buy a car, what interest rates they pay, what credit cards they can get at what rate, whether they'll get insurance, what they pay for it, whether they'll be able to rent an apartment, whether they'll be accepted for a job. All of that, in some sense, is in your hands. These companies are not just keepers of consumer data. They essentially manage, or mismanage as the case may be, Americans' financial reputations. When your reports matter this much, with consequences this drastic, it's important that you get it right. It's vital that these reports contain only information that's useful and fair and, above all, accurate. In 2017, when Equifax...
I want to stop the video something real quick, what the senator just said. Did you hear the key word? He said fair and accurate. You can have information that's on your report that could be, accurate, but it can unfairly represent you. And that's something that we're going to talk about later in the video. I'm going to show you exactly where this is at in the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, where there is a section where it talks about character. And that specifically speaks to unfairly representing you. It's not just about the account itself, but it's also about the way that it represents you or us, all of us. And so I'm going to get into how you will be able to challenge negative information on your credit reports that will be based on what you believe is a misrepresentation of your character.
Experienced the massive data breach. The American public was frankly shocked to find out exactly how much credit reporting agencies are involved in their lives. They don't, no offense, but they don't think about you a whole lot. The company compromised the personal information of more than 147 million consumers, including their Social Security numbers. Millions of people were forced into a crash course on how frustrating it can be to deal with credit reporting companies when they make a mistake. They had to place a credit freeze. They had to request their credit report. They were told to constantly monitor this information for inaccuracies. People are busy enough with their children and their jobs and their lives. They shouldn't have to spend that kind of time because some company they've never heard of screwed up. The data breach affected millions of people at once and got a lot of attention. But that was far from the only case of costly mistakes by your companies. Today, credit reports are still riddled with errors. According to an FTC study, 1 in 5 consumers had errors in at least one of 3 credit reports. 1 in 20 had errors that affected the likelihood of receiving credit or affected their credit rate. More than 200 million Americans are in Experian, Equifax, TransUnion credit reporting system. That means potentially 40 million customers have errors on their credit reports. In a 2022 report, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion routinely failed to adequately respond to consumers with errors in their reports.
Okay, I want to pause the video right there. You saw that was a report by the Consumer Protection CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they stated that all three, not just one, all three, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, that they were not responding to consumer disputes. And that's very frustrating to people when they are the ones that are in charge of making sure that the information is accurate, that they're the ones that can remove it, upon investigation, and that they were not following through with what they were supposed to be doing when consumers or credit repair companies, whoever was making those disputes. As a matter of fact, what they were doing, and I'm gonna finish on the video here, but I'm not sure if he'll get into it. Is what they were doing is they were sending out letters scaring people from wanting to work on their credit by sending out letters stating that either we don't believe that you were the one that wanted to work on your credit, like you as an individual are not wanting to have information accurately reported on your credit reports. They went into more about who was sending it for you, or if you were smart enough to put together the letters that kind of made them have to look at what they had allowed to be placed on your credit reports. They were mainly just sending letters back automatically on that without even going into investigating. Now, I'm not going to say that none of it was investigated, because we even had clients who had received that letter and also received the results from the investigation. So some of this stuff was just auto letters. I don't know what was going on internally, but this is proof that and that this was happening. And really, here's the unsaid frustration, or the frustration that people had, is that there were a lot of people that were trying to work on their credit during this period of time and continuing to this day. And when results did not come in when they wanted them, when they felt that they should come in, when they read the laws and it says 30 to 45 days and all of that stuff that the bureaus are supposed to abide by, and it didn't happen, people got frustrated and quit. So when I look at this, I'm thinking about the millions of people who were trying to do something with their credit, and they ended up quitting because the bureaus didn't do their job. And even, let's just say, even if the bureaus, because they're overwhelmed, they're receiving millions of disputes every month, that they still got frustrated because, this is a business. And when you're dealing with businesses that deals with millions of people, you're going to have to put in a lot of work to get the job done, but it will get done. But this was something that, I think that if you were working on your credit in the past, you could see that you did not have, it wasn't a fair game, because if the bureaus were just disregarding the investigations, that could frustrate the hell out of a lot of people.
After this report, the three credit reporting agencies instituted some reforms to better respond to consumer complaints about errors on their credit report. It's an important, though long overdue, first step. But errors like mixed files, where the information of a different consumer appears in a credit file, are still far too common. Mixed files are such a pervasive problem that in 2015, 30 attorneys general settled a lawsuit with three credit reporting agencies, understanding you were not CEOs then, over this problem. Among other reforms, the credit reporting agencies were required to establish minimum standards for matching criteria and reducing mixed files. It's much more than just mixed up files. Some people, still very much alive, are declared dead. They have their identity stolen, the list goes on. Errors are introduced into this system by what are called furnishers, companies supplying information to the reporting agencies. Debt collectors are some of the worst offenders when it comes to supplying wrong information. CFPB found that even though their debt collectors supply just 13% of the accounts to credit reports, they're responsible for 40% of the disputes in credit reports, 13%, 40%. Americans can be dinged on the reports for debts, in some cases you not even owe. It's not just errors that do not belong on credit reports. Medical debt in particular, I've spoken to each of you about that, has absolutely no place on credit reports. In 2022, just in this country, an estimated 43 million Americans held $88 billion of medical debt on their credit reports. Low-income families, Black and Hispanic households, veterans, older Americans are hit particularly hard. But medical debt can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter if you do everything right. Anyone can get sick. Anyone can get in a car accident. Nothing really to do with your ability to pay your bills, or at least it shouldn't. Medical debt does not correlate with credit risks. It correlates with illness or injury. No one should have her financial future destroyed because of an emergency or a sick family member. That's why I'm asking your companies to stop putting medical debt, period, on your reports. After increasing scrutiny and pressure a year ago, the three of you all announced you would significantly change how medical collection debt is reported. One of the major reforms announced is the removal of all medical debts of $500 or below on reports. This is a good step, thank you, but it's also not enough. If you have a
So you could see there that, and I think you probably saw the news reports about the medical debt where they were going to take off the medical debt that's $500 and under. We're still seeing a lot of medical debt that is still $500 and under on there. We just went through one with one of our clients where he had a medical debt of $92 that was reported, excuse me, that was reported on his credit reports. Excuse me, that was reported on his credit reports, and we had to dispute it several times with the debt collection company that was hired by the medical company, the medical provider, to dispute that debt. But here's the crazy thing: is that that medical debt for $92 was actually paid because we had did a settlement on the whole entire balance. It was what you'll see some of the times is that these medical bills are actually broken apart from different providers that provided the service for the medical provider. And that this, when we looked at it, the settlement had actually had that debt paid, but they were still reporting that on his credit reports. So now let's get into, and I invite you to go and look at the entire video from the Senate Banking Committee hearings on consumer credit reporting. This was April 27th, 2023. And you can, watch a little bit more on that so you can see what the Senate Banking Committee stated were the issues with credit reporting agencies, and also some of the things that they wanted done, and also some of the things that the credit reporting agency said that they were going to do. Now let's get into drafting a letter to help you out with uh, certain issues when it involves your character. So I want to break that down. So one of my good buddies, his name is Jerry. He works in the credit repair industry, and he does a lot of furniture type where he, you know, find misleading or false information, and he can sometimes get it to where the furnisher, which is usually debt collectors, will have to pay a fine for what they're doing. And when we were talking on the phone, he was saying, "Steve, are you aware of this?" And he was kind of hitting it from an angle that we normally don't utilize with the well, he was coming at it from an angle that when I was speaking to him on the phone, I guess I just wasn't 100% in the mode of of the way that we do our disputes when we're going up against debt collection companies that are furnishing information because that is one of our specialties. And he was like, Steve, why don't you take a good look at uh, it's 16. Let me bring it up here in my notes here. He was like, Steve, why don't you take a look at this? And I was like, okay, I'll take a look at it. It was 1681 I of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and then also 1682 E and B, and then 1681 S and 2B for the furnishers. And I was like, okay, I'll take a look at it. And when I looked at it, I was like, because I was on the phone with him, I wasn't at a computer at that time. And I looked at it, I was like, well, this is stuff that we do. This is this is the way that we go after furnishers, but something that he did make me aware of that I had never really focused on. And I'm glad, and Jerry, if you're watching this video, I thank you for waking me up or making me more aware of this, was the understanding of, so we got here of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and it says false representation. So this is under, here's the code here, 15 U.S. Code 169-2E, false or misleading representation. And so what I want to focus on is this right here. I want to focus on this right. Oops, let me get this back here. Kind of messed that up. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. After me pushing buttons and messing up stuff. So right here, false. So it's false or misleading representation. What we would always usually focus on with our furniture disputes was the amount and the legal status. So amount and legal status would be really, what you if you've watched any of my videos, I always talk about the amounts that they need to prove the claim that their debt collectors will state a certain amount and they have no way of really proving that amount other than a couple of statements. And then when you challenge them on getting all of the information to equal that amount, that is the way that you can beat a debt collector when they're coming after you for a debt. And this is also if they're coming after you for that debt in a lawsuit. Is that's definitely the way that you should challenge it. Now, legal status would be if they're coming after you for a debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. So if you have a debt collector coming after you and they're trying to say that you have to pay this debt and it is past the legal statute of limitations, that would be a misrepresentation of the legal status of that debt. Because if a debt is past the legal statute of limitations to be able to collect, there is really no legal standing on, no legal options that they have available to make you have to pay that debt. So we have our two things right here that you can actually craft a very simple letter to a debt collection company that is trying to collect a debt from you. Is one based on the amount, proving how they came up with that amount, and the other one is if there's an issue with the legal status. That's why with my 3-pack of letters that I always give away, it's like that. When I say that it will stop most debt collection companies, that is the reason why. But now let's talk about this part right here, character. So what I did is I went and I looked up, okay, let's talk about character, because if 15 US Code 169-2E, false or misleading representation, and then paragraph 2, false representation of the character. The character. So if we look at definition, character, the way someone thinks, feels, and behaves, someone's personality, usually singular. And then this is what's in Google here. He rarely shows his true character, that of a kind and sensitive person. This is a side of her character that few people have seen. So that's what they got in the definition there. But so if you look at, and you've probably heard advertisements or you've seen my website where we talk about where if it does it fairly represents you, and if you finish watching the video that we just showed with the Senate committee, and how the senator actually stated like this. So this is false representation. So he said, this was his words. He said that if you have medical debt, that has nothing to do with your other ability to be able to pay your bills. Now, some people may disagree with that. Some people may disagree with that. So I'm not going to get into that back and forth. Some companies might disagree with that. But if we go off of the way that he stated that, wouldn't that be false representation of the character of the individual who has that information on their reports? So that would, what he talked about was specifically for medical debt, but the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act does not say that it is only false and misrepresentation of your character when it comes to medical debt, if it's on there. When it comes to any debt, so if you look at it, false representation A, number 2, paragraph 2, section A, the character, comma, amount, comma, or legal status. So you have 3 main issues that you can go after, and you can also quote 15 USC Code 169 1692E, false or misleading representation pertaining to a debt that was placed on your credit, or information that was placed on your credit that is falsely misrepresentation of your character. You do not have to state how you believe it is falsely how it is a false misrepresentation of your character. And that's why I'm very glad that my good buddy Jerry just out of the blue gave me a call, because what he was stating and uh, what he kind of reminded me of is that it is not up to you to make the case when you are making the allegation to a debt collection company over your character, or over the debt, or over the legal status. You state to them what you believe, and you let them make the determination on, by hopefully they look at their records and they say, this is a false representation of this individual's character. Oh, this is a false misrepresentation of the amount, because we can't prove the amount or the legal status of this debt. This debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Let's listen to our recordings, because if we did not state that this was a time barred debt when we called this individual, we are in violation of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Because when a debt collector calls you about a debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect, they are supposed to notify you that it is a time barred debt that they're calling you about. The amount, that's going to be something that is going to be in the back and forth, but you have a right to dispute the amount. And then they come back with how they're going to prove that amount. And they're going to usually come back with some statements, and you're going to say that this does not show how you came up with that. Let's just say, for example, 5,000. Give me all of the charges that equaled up to this $5,000 from day one, because now you are the owner of this debt, and you must get all of the documentation to prove this amount that you're claiming. And then when we go to character, you are falsely misrepresenting my character by putting this information on my credit reports, and you can enhance that by saying that you have not proven uh, the amount. You have not proven how you came up with that amount that would be able to be challenged, that would not put you in jeopardy of being challenged if I was to take you to court for this amount. How did you come up with this amount, and do you believe that this amount is 100% accurate? So I really appreciate Jerry for let me look at this from another angle, and I think that it will help everyone that's watching this video here. So uh, I've always, with my 3 pack of letters, I've always added the amount, how they came up with the amount, and then I have the debt validation, which is the back and forth because they're going to try to just send some statements. And then the other part of it was the legal status if they try to come after you for a debt that's past legal statute of limitation to collect. But I'm going to enhance it and add a section about the character, false misrepresentation of character. Now, this is going to be, it depends on the information that's showing on your report. So this isn't something that they're automatically doing. I don't want to misrepresent and say that they're always misrepresenting the individual's character. This is going to be uh, case by case basis where when you look at the way that they're putting that information on your credit reports, you will make that determination if they're falsely misrepresenting your character. You just heard the senator state that if you believe that a medical debt is placed on your credit reports, that you could have that information removed based off of it falsely misrepresenting your character on your ability to be able to pay other debts. And so you just saw that he just gave you the information on how you would be able to dispute a medical debt that way. And then you can also look at any other debts that debt collectors have placed on your credit reports, the way that they place that information on your credit reports. And I would even state that this could even go for original creditors if information has been placed on your credit reports in a way that distorts your character, because information on your credit reports has to be fair and accurate. It has to be fair and accurate to be placed on your credit reports. All right. So if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video of what makes us different so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit report scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations letter, debt validation letter, and cease and desist collection activities letter. The instructions are on top, so use the one that pertains to your specific situation. Please subscribe to my channel. Please post your questions and comments. Please like this video and share it. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.